Now, as you know from my 3D Corner segments in the past couple of weeks, that I do have a 3D printer. So what I'm going to try to do is sort of merge 3D printing technology with mixed media to create something. And what I have in mind is to create an altered Altoid tin, but I'm going to make the tin on the 3D printer, and I'm going to add some steampunk elements like gears and keys and things like that, also 3D printed, to the top to embellish it. And I want to make this the size that will hold a 6x6, maybe an accordion fold, maybe a stitched little album, which will all be done as well in the steampunk theme. So this is a bit of an experiment to see if I can put together the world of mixed media with the world of 3D printing. So I think the first thing I need to do is print out the actual Altoid style box. I call it an Altoid box style because I have to increase the dimensions of it from an original Altoid box. And on top of that, it's not made of tin, it'll be made of plastic. So let's see what I can do. So here's the tin base all done. I guess I shouldn't call it a tin base, it's plastic base. This took 17 hours to print. So it's done, it came out, it's flawless, which is great, which means all my settings on the 3D printer were primed properly. And over on the 3D printer right now, I have now the tin top, the Altoid tin top, and it's going to probably take almost as many hours. It's not quite as deep, so it might take a little less, but it's still going to take a long time. So the lid for this box is finally printed, and here it is. And it took almost as long as the base did. It's a little less plastic in it, but it took at least about 13 or 14 hours to print. But now I have my modified Altoid tin box that will fit a 6x6 album. Now I think I probably should have made this a little higher to get a thicker one in, but this will be probably a prototype. And after I do the album in this, I can make that decision as to, for the next one, if I want to make that bigger. Of course, if I make that a little higher, it's going to take longer to print. So you can see this is not a fast process. So with my 3D printer, I've printed out a whole bunch of gears and steampunky-like elements, this butterfly, this pocket watch, and I'm going to put those, some of those, on top of the box lid for this 6x6 album Altoid style box. And of course I printed it in orange, but I'm going to change that with the paint pouring, which I'm going to do in just a couple of minutes. And I may print out a few other interesting embellishments that I have as well. I have some keys and things like that that I think will add an interesting dimension to the top. So I'm going to paint pour on the top of this lid. So I've got my paints mixed up. I've got 4 different colors, and I'm going for sort of a antique look. So I've mixed some brown, some very dark red, some yellow, and a little white in these cups that have the stir sticks hanging out of them. And I also used pouring medium right here as well to make them even a little bit more fluid. These are fluid acrylics as well by Golden. And now I'm going to dump a little bit of each one of these into this empty cup over here and then pour it on my top. And you notice I've got a rack on here so it can all drip down through onto my no-stick craft sheet. Okay, so I've poured my paint, and actually right now it's of course very, very wet, but I think it's looking really quite nice just from this. Now this paint will spread out a little bit more, and it's going to alter a little bit, and it's going to take a while to dry. I like to leave it for, well, overnight anyways, if not a full 24 hours. And then we'll come back to it and move on. So I have finished paint pouring on the lid of this Altoid box, this altered Altoid box, and it is all nice and dry now. And now I'm going to decorate it. So I'm just going to remove the base out of the way for a second. And these are the elements that I'm thinking of using. I'm making it sort of steampunkish. Now, I'm not so sure about the colors on here, because some of these I printed in sort of a green, thinking it might come out like a patina, you know, like what copper goes to when it hits the elements. So I'm not really sure if I want to use those on here or not. But I just want to make an arrangement all over with these gears. And I can alter the color of the gears by adding, just going over them with maybe a little StazOn ink. But I'm just seeing now what the arrangement might look like. Maybe something like that. And these gears are all different thicknesses as well. And let's see, maybe one more somewhere, maybe over here. And of course, all of these elements were printed out with my 3D printer. Actually, I don't think I'm going to alter the color. I kind of like that shade of green that's in there. And then what I think I'm going to do is I have these two large elements, this butterfly and this clock. And I'm thinking the butterfly might look really nice just put right there on top. Yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do. Oh, I've got some keys as well. So I may intersperse some of these keys in around. Maybe actually use them more as a frame kind of thing. This, of course, is not the permanent placement. I'm just getting an idea. Yeah, I think I'll do that with the keys. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue all these pieces down to the top of this, and I think I'm going to use my trusty Gorilla Glue for this. And I'll come back and show you the end result. So I've finished putting on all the embellishments on the lid, and they're all glued down now. This is starting to dry, so I'm not going to tip it up. But you can also see, I hope in the video, that I add a little sparkle to this by taking some stickles in copper and in silver and just putting little dabs of it in some of the holes of the sprockets and on the butterfly itself as well. I also took some black ink, and I did gunge up the pieces a little bit with some Memento black ink. And I did the same thing to the edges of the can, both the top and the bottom. This orange color I kind of grunged up a little bit. And so once that dries, then the next stage of this is to build the steampunk album that's going to go inside this box. Okay, so now it's time to put the album together. And so I've cut out, using my Cricut, these in black cardstock, which will be the backing for each of my pages. And I've put them into signature format, folded them in half. And now what I want to do is stitch them together. And I'm just going to take my awl, and I'm going to punch a hole in the center of this spine. Through there. And then I'm going to put one on either end, about an inch in from the edge. I'm not really measuring these. I'm just eyeballing it. That's okay. If you want to be more exact, you could measure it. Okay, so I have my holes, and now I'm taking some waxed thread, which is made actually for bookbinding, and a very large needle. I'm just going to thread it. Okay, I've got to thread it. Oh shoot, and then I pulled it back out. Yeah, that was clever. Geez, even with a big eye, you'd think I'd be able to thread it properly. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to go down through the center hole. Now, I want to get this right because I want to tie the knot on the inside, not the outside, so I think I should go from the outside in. Just leave a long tail. Then down through one of the holes at the other end. And then I'm going to come up through the center hole. Just pull that taut down through the other hole. It's very simple. Nothing too scientific about this. And back up through the center hole again. And what I probably should have done was take this tail up through there. So I'm just going to just thread that tail into the needle and bring that up through the center hole. Take the needle off and pull everything taut. And this is a wax thread, so pulling it tight makes it stay. The wax helps that. And I'm just going to tie a couple of knots in this to secure it. And just trim off my tails. Now, I could have this hang out on the other side, and I could put little beads or something on it, but I'm not going to do it with this one. And so there we have our book. I'm going to take my bone folder, if I can find it, here it is, and just give this another little rub down here. And so the little booklet's done. Now, I've already pre-cut out my pages that I want to go on here, and I cut them a little bit smaller than the foundation, so I'd have a nice black border all the way around. And I've gone around each one of these with a little bit of black Memento ink, and I'm going to put these in here. Now, the way I'm going to do it, I picked two that I want it to be on the front cover and one on the back cover from this set. And this technically is, even though I'm doing a steampunk theme, the paper I'm using has some steampunk elements to it, but it's called Da Vinci, and there he is right there. And I thought he'd look good on the back of the album. And I could use double-sided tape for this, the kind that you put down and peel off the backing, or I can use a tape runner, and this is a Tombow tape runner. So this is very good tape. It holds very well. So I'm putting on a generous amount, and I'm doing this for the sake of time and speed with this. And I'm going to put the back one on too, and I'm doing it in this order because I don't want to get these mixed up with my other pages. But you can see this is going to go together very quickly. And then I'm just going to do each one of the inside pages in the same manner. All of these, as I've said, have had some black ink put around the edges to get rid of the white and to give it a little bit of dimension. And we'll do one more on camera, but I'm sure you have gotten the idea. This is not brain surgery. And I'm just going to continue, and I'll be back in a minute. So I've done putting in all my pages now, and this is what the final product looks like. Now, right now, it's just the basic pages. I think I will go in and I'm going to add a few other extra embellishments, maybe a couple of cards, maybe some journaling cards and things like that. I can't make it very thick though because I didn't make my box very thick. So I've got to be aware of that, but it'll fit right in here. Now you'll notice I put some of these, I had them left over and I added them, and I might add something more to these in here too, but the album will fit right in there, just like that. Now, as I said, I am not done yet. I think I'm going to be adding more to the album, but I think I may be adding something more to the outside of this as well. I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. I have a few ideas, but I'll do that in the next segment. So I have finished up the Altoid style album box that I printed on my 3D printer. And so here's the final cover of it. And then when we open it up, I added a few things to the inside just to finish it off. Just get this opened up. And so what I did on the inside cover was I added a couple of blank cards. They're blank on the other side. So these could be journaling cards or whatever. And I did the same. Oops, came out. I did the same here on the bottom. And these just came from a little pull-apart pack I had of something laying around. And I added a couple little things here. So we have these pockets, and there's enough room in those pockets that you could put a few other thin things, because remember, this whole album box is fairly thin. And then I just dressed up the cover of the album itself up a little bit with some costume jewelry that I had laying around. I've collected some of these over time. And just a couple of Tim Holtz metal bands. This one says possibility begins with imagination, and this one says the journey awakens the soul. So that's all done now, and so there I managed to mix. I put together my world of 3D printing with my world of mixed media and album making to create this little tin, and it's all done.